Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by TradingAcademy.com. If you're a first-time listener, well, thank you for coming back and coming and listening to the show. We've had a good time talking about how these markets actually functions, the opportunities in up markets, the opportunities with down markets. We got into that in the first segment. We have an edge as a retail trader or investor. Peter Lynch even said that, legendary fund manager, said, if exploited, the retail or the public actually has an edge over the financial institutions. The problem is that edge is not used. Most people go and just give their money to a stranger and hope they have enough to retire one day. Yep. And that's just what we're going to talk about on this segment here, is how much do you actually need to retire these days? And I just Googled a little stat here, and I want to go into that in a second here. But make sure if you missed seats for that free investing class, you can simply go to otamin.com. That's OTAMINN.com for 2 seats for that investing class to get started down that future that you're looking for. Text investing to the number 210-210, or simply go to otamin.com for 2 seats for that class. So as I talked about in that last segment and about more income strategies, and having extra income is where, or how I should say, that you build your wealth account is more than one source. Now, I just Googled how much do you need to have in savings to be able to live we'll call it a healthy lifestyle, or a lifestyle that you're looking to do or have during retirement. And so it just says here some ages from 30 to 65. If someone's 30 years old, they should, in this actual study here, it's off of Bing, I think it's Forbes.com. And it says if you're 30 years old, you should have at least half your salary saved up. So if someone's 30 years old, they should have at least $50,000 saved up if they make $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. If someone's 35, it says 1 times your salary. So if you make $100,000 a year, you should have $100,000 saved. If somebody is 50, they should have six times their salary saved up. So, and I would say an average salary is probably $100,000. I would say is probably on the lower end nowadays, but a lot of people are making in the $100,000 range right now. You should have at least 6 times your salary saved, which is $600,000. If you are 60, this study says you should have 10 times your salary saved. So if you make $100,000, you should have at least $1 million. And that's kind of a number that people shoot for, because if you think about it, people in their 60s, 60, 65, back in the day, in the olden days, $1 million was a lot of money, right? And that's what has been engraved into their head. They think, oh, I need to have $1 million. But really, is $1 million going to be enough to retire these days? Things are going up. You have inflation. Home prices are going up. Interest rates are high for everything. You got credit card interest rates that are high. So you need to have a great amount of money saved up to retire. So if you have less than $1 million saved up, you might want to do something a little bit differently. And when is the best time to start that? It's not, besides yesterday, it's right now. So you help a lot of people do that, Al. You help a lot of people build a plan and be able to see a path toward that, and what might be that opportunity to get there. It's not just buying and selling stocks, it's investing in options, futures, Forex. What are some of the key components key components that you're helping your students do and start to do to have that opportunity?
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you are in your stage of life. If you're young, if you're in your 30s or 40s, it's easy at that point in time to not worry about retirement. So people don't put as much effort into maybe putting aside the money that they need. And to be honest with you now, it's hard for people to put aside enough money to build up a portfolio that's going to be worth, and not $1 million anymore. But most advisors now are looking at closer to $2 million for you to live a comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah, and I know you teach a lot of these classes, and I would say the average age we've been seeing come to these classes are probably between 50, I'd say 45 and 65. Yeah. So let's speak to those people, since that's who's coming to these classes, is people between 45 and 65, because they're starting to prepare. Let's speak to them and talk about those opportunities.
Yeah, and it's really encouraging to see that. And a lot of these people are highly paid people. You mentioned $100,000. $100,000 a few years ago was a really nice income, but now there's a high percentage of people that are in the six-figure income that are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Most
And
people won't even look at a job interview if it's less than 100 anymore.
that's correct. And they don't want to work a full work week either.
Yeah.
Things have changed
Or
a bit
go to work.
there, or go to work at all. That's correct. But the cost of living, and you kind of hit on some of these things. The cost of living is huge. People got used to having a little extra money during the pandemic when all the stimulus money was put out there. That money is pretty much gone now, but unfortunately,
it's because they weren't doing anything.
Well,
That's why.
Yeah, but they got used to maybe spending money that they wouldn't have had before. Now, when that money is starting to run out, what they're doing is they still have that buying mentality, and we're seeing that in the buying activity of the public. But now they're going into debt. They're going into credit card debt, over $1 trillion, and interest rates can be as high as 29%. That is basically you're taking a shovel and you're digging a big hole for yourself.
That's robbery, by the way.
You're relying on that. And well, it's even worse because a lot of the credit card companies are automatically increasing your credit limit. So they're helping you dig that hole even deeper. So it's hard to find the money to put aside. That's why so many people are looking at additional sources of income.
So what are some of the things that you're doing to help people plan?
Well, we're talking to them about the ways that you can generate additional sources of income without having to have an extra job, because that's really what most people have become used to. If I need more money, I'll get a part-time job or I'll work overtime. There are assets that you can trade that are really designed for income that allow you to not have to go somewhere and report to somebody and be responsible to somebody else. You can sit at home, your home office. You can sit on a beach with a cell phone and trade. These are assets that we talked about futures in the last segment. Well, the foreign exchange market, the options market, there's three right there, three different sources of income that you could have.
That's interesting, Al, because if you're behind on retirement, you need something that gives you the most capital efficiency, and that's those leveraged assets.
Exactly. And the reason that people don't trade them is because they don't know about them, and they fear things that they don't know.
Well, now that they know about them, let's get them going with that.
Okay, well, and that's what we do. We pull back that curtain, that shroud, and we show you what these assets are, how you can trade them, and why the big institutions, if you look at the returns of the public compared to the Wall Street institutions, the big banks, the smart money, the hedge funds, there's a huge difference there. And why is there a huge difference? Well, it's because the one group that is consistently successful, Wall Street, is using strategies that are different than what they push on the public. And that's what we show you what they're doing and how you can participate doing basically the same things that they're doing. And here's the great thing. You mentioned Peter Lynch saying that the retail trader has the edge now. We do, but do you know what the edge is? That's what we'll show you. Come in and let us talk to you about what the edge is you as a retail trader you can do for yourself.
Yep. And I want to just ask you a question, Alan. And if you're listening right now, say the same thing out loud. And you're probably going to say the same thing. I want to ask you the question, Alan. I want to get you to give it 2 seconds before you answer so our listeners can do the same. What is the average rate of return that the market gives over time? What's the historical average? Give it 2 seconds, and then why don't you say it, and our listeners do the same. There's 2 seconds.
Okay. Well, if you look at the S&P 500, it kind of depends on the time period you're looking at, but it can be 8-9%.
Okay.
But people do not get the same return as the S&P 500.
Correct. So if you said something around there, maybe you weren't sure, but if you said something around there, you're conditioned to think that's actually good. So if that's what you believe, and then say your broker or your advisor says that's what you're going to get because historical, all that stuff, well, then that's exactly what you will get, is mediocre. And if you want opportunities to have the potential to do something different, it might take looking at a different asset or a different strategy or maximizing your capital. And we'll introduce you to those strategies in these investing classes. I want to give away one last seat to these investing classes to be introduced to these concepts, these techniques, these different assets that allow you to have better opportunities. Just text the word investing to the number 210-210, or simply go to our website, otamin.com. That's OTAMINN.com. So, Al, it's all about belief, right? Mm-hmm. And what you believe, you will achieve. If you believe mediocrity, you will get mediocrity. If you believe the best things that can happen, you might have that opportunity. But it takes a little bit of action to do so. You have to take action to get started. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do is get started. That's why we have a free class for people to come in to see what it's all about. And you help with different techniques, different tips and tricks, but you always have great insight. And I want you to talk about today that tip. Let's hear today's OTA tip of the week.
Well, take a moment and ask yourself why you are where you are in your life. The answer is it's because of decisions you have made. And where you will be in the future depends on the decisions you make today. So embrace the fact that you have the freedom to decide how your future will look. If changes you want to make are financial, we can provide the knowledge, the tools, the strategies, the resources to give you the opportunity to succeed. But it's up to you to decide what to do with them. The decision you make now can change your life forever.
I like that. It's time for a change. And that was, I think, a campaign a while back, like maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I think it was. It was a nice campaign. It worked very well.
All right.
That being said, let's get started. Coming to one of these investing classes, simply just go to otamin.com, otaminn.com, or simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210. Hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to subscribe and smash the like on the podcast, Investing and Trading Live, wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. As always, same time, same place next week. Until then, retire young, my friends.